Hey guys, welcome back to Frequently Asked Questions in Japan with Unrested. And I've been getting a lot of questions about books recently, so I thought I would take the first part of this segment to just do a little review on books that I've used since I've come to Japan to learn Japanese and some cultural stuff about Japan as well. And on this I'm going to go ahead and give some books some props, and I'm going to slam some books too for being total trashed. Okay? So let's go ahead and start with some of the good ones. And one of the most basic ones that I started out with was a Japanese pocket dictionary. Now this one right here is totally in Romaji, which isn't so great obviously if you're trying to learn hiragana, katakana, or kanji, but it does have English to Japanese and Japanese to English translation, which is great. If you're sitting around watching TV and you want to look up something really fast because you don't know what the word is, this dictionary is perfect for it. Okay? So it really doesn't matter which brand, but I would highly recommend an English to Japanese, Japanese to English dictionary. And then after that, after you're starting to get used to kanji, katakana, okay, and hiragana, I would suggest you get a kanji dictionary, okay? This will have usually the words in hiragana as well so that you can know what the kana pronunciation is. And it'll usually list the words, if you don't know them, by number of strokes. You can look in the back and see, oh, you know, this kanji's got 14 strokes, and it's going to be in the 14 stroke section. Okay? So, it's great for when you're first starting to get English to Japanese, Japanese to English, and then after you get a little more advanced, go ahead and get your kanji dictionary. That's going to help you learn how to read and write Japanese a lot. Okay? Now, another one I started out with when I first got here, and it's almost completely destroyed from me carrying it around in my bag. No longer has its cover. We still got the back to it. I don't know if you can see on the side here. That is Japanese for Busy People, or at least what's left of it. And I started out with book 1. There's all the way up to, I think, book 3. I don't think it goes any farther than book 3. If I'm wrong, you know, just destroy me in the comments. I got up to book 2. After that I moved on to a different series. It's great for learning grammatical Japanese, different grammatical parts of Japanese. Learning how to finally use that ga, wa, o, e, ni, okay, those little particles that are in between the sentences that you're like, what do I use next? I don't know what to use to connect these words. That'll help you do that, okay? That's great beginner grammar, okay? I highly recommend those books. My first slam is going to be The Rules of Living in Japan, okay, written by Fujito Shimoyama, okay? This book is total trash, okay? First reason it's total trash is because the etiquette and manners it listed in here were etiquette and manners that are common sense throughout the entire world, okay? For instance, at one point it says, when a guest leaves your house and you close the door, do not speak loudly about them since they can still hear you when they're outside. What? Yeah, no kidding. Okay? Unless you're a total idiot, you realize people can probably hear you through your door. Okay? Horrible job on this. Not only that, I would say about 75% of the stuff in this book teaches a woman how she should dress for different formal occasions in Japan. Okay, so maybe Fujito should have called this book The Rules of Living in Japan and Dressing as a Woman in Japan, because it is almost completely oriented towards dressing for a woman in Japan. Okay? Worthless piece of trash book. I don't recommend it at all. Okay. Another good one here, ouch. Another good one here is a little kid's book. Okay? And you're saying, Scott, why would I want to buy a little kid's book? I want to learn super adult Japanese and sound extremely intelligent. Well, guess what? We've all got to start somewhere. And I started with a little kid's book called The Rainbow English Japanese Dictionary. And it's a great book because it starts out with probably about the first 1,000 words you should know. Okay? And these are basic words, you know, things like window, floor, door, ground, okay? And they've usually got drawings to go along with it and sentences to show you how to use the word, okay? Examples that help you learn how to place it correctly and sound, you know, grammatically correct when you speak Japanese. It's all in hiragana, very basic hiragana. It's got the kanji in there as well, but it's also got the hiragana kana translation there so that you know how to pronounce all the kanji that's in it because it's for little kids. Okay? I highly recommend picking up a little kid's book. I started reading little kids' books to get better at reading when I first got to Japan as well. Okay, read The Hungry Caterpillar, and Goodnight Moon in Japanese. Okay, here's another piece of trash. In Ghostly Japan, okay? Now, this is actually written by a guy who came here ages and ages and ages ago. All the way back, I want to say, almost Edo era. Okay, and he took a bunch of Japanese stories and translated them, probably in the most boring way he could possibly translate them. By no means is this book a page-turner. It is utterly and completely boring, and the writing is stale as hell. Okay? Do not recommend this book at all. Also, it says, in Ghostly Japan. That makes me think, whoa, there's probably a bunch of ghost stories in there. Wrong. No ghost stories. There's like maybe one ghost story in there, and the rest is just trash. Okay. I've talked about these books before. I'm just going to show you the series, okay? We've got the Handbook of Japanese Adjectives and Adverbs, the Handbook of Japanese Verbs, and Japanese Sentence Patterns for Effective Communication. I would say those three books are the most important books you would ever want to buy for getting started speaking smoothly and fluently in the Japanese language. The most well-written books I've ever gotten in Japan. Help me learn Japanese super fast, okay? Another good one, it's simple, it's very simple, it's just called Real Life Japanese, okay? This is good for when you first get here. This tells you translations of things that are said on the train, in a restaurant, when you're just trying to order food, basics like that, using a taxi, the basics that you'll do when you first get here, okay? Now later down the line you'd probably say, oh, this book is useless, but for someone first coming to Japan, this is a great first read, okay? It explains all the messages you hear ding inside of elevators, inside of the train station, while you're on the subway, things like that. And it's really good translation. So I highly suggest it for someone who's first gotten to Japan. Now, here's one. Japanese Slang by Peter Constantine. Well, it says uncensored, so it's really tough, right? I'd have to say the Japanese in here is so ancient. None of it's used anymore, okay? I've read all the way through this, and I don't know exactly when the copyright was or when this book was written, but it's highly out of date. And I don't know why it's still even sold in bookstores, because all the Japanese in this book is completely worthless. No one uses this stuff anymore. It's loads of similes and metaphors that are supposedly used in underground, criminal groups, but anybody I've asked about anything in any of this book says, no, total trash. None of this is used in Japan. Alright, and one of my most favorite, and who I need to give loads of credit to, Matt Fargo, the genius, wrote Dirty Japanese, okay? When I teach my lessons online, many times I reference this book, okay? Probably one of the most up-to-date modern Japanese language books ever written, okay? This guy is pretty much a genius when it comes to Japanese. I say most times to not trust Japanese books written by gaijin, but this guy really knows his stuff. He's got his, I think, either master's, at least a master's in Japanese, and he's actually even written a book in Japanese as well. I haven't read it yet, I'd really like to. But Dirty Japanese is going to be the most up-to-date modern street Japanese you're ever going to learn. Okay, so I highly, highly recommend it.